Stephen Thel Kocher. Pronouncing his name properly, I don't really believe I am, but hasn't been anything updated from October to December of 2020. The last information that was released about him, which was ostensibly brought up in YouTube channels in December, which is the reason you're seeing some activity on Wikipedia, was actually information from 2019. The last bits of information released were things that were redacted and cleaned up because they were interviews with people that were found not to have anything to do with it. And of course, the only thing you see on YouTube and on the internet are people looking at any names listed and deciding to go after them, coming up with conspiracy theories or just being hyper-vigilant, otherwise known as paranoid. But I have something real to point out about the case that is significant for some of you who are armchair detectives, which is what I would qualify myself under as a deprecating statement, self-deprecating statement. This is a link I had that pointed to the actual pathway from where his car was parked and the probable or only pathway he could have taken to walk past two security cameras. I found the physical locations where the cameras were, and I did a video with street views showing the buildings themselves and where their security cameras were back about, well, actually many years later. They matched exactly with the angle, and I could confirm that this was the pathway that was the last bit that was visible on camera. And that's it. And you can look up everything about this. This has already been gone over and over. So I'm not really providing anything interesting here until I hit this little button here on Google Maps that shows the pathways where you can see Google Street Views. In case you can't tell, all of the Google Street Views I used for a previous video or two are gone. Whoever owns this very large group of houses and properties for the houses to be on, and the golf courses that are interspersed between them as a sort of upper middle class perfection of happiness, they're almost all gone. There are one or two pieces that are left over that we can visit. The pathway the person took, most likely, if it was just a straight line, him walking past the camera, we can only surmise that he came up this way with some paperwork under his arm to go up here and maybe put out flyers for work, or maybe go to a job site. We don't know what happened, and people came up with all sorts of stories, including nasty things to say about the man who went missing, because that made good tabloid stories. The pathway I brought up, and this is the most likely one, is I simply came up with the most likely pathway the person could have taken that would make him very difficult to find or be observed even by security cameras. There's a roadway up here, and yes, I had in my video where I positioned us here looking down through this, and it looks very different later on, but at the time it might have been a much more passable way. I also pointed out that this turnaround spot here originally was a piece of road, a standard one, that they turned into a turnaround so that they could make it to where it was more controlled access for security. You'd have to go Wild Ayers Terrace to get to here, and from here, in order to get in there, you had to go in through Laurel Heights, which means his vehicle could have been parked by going through some simple barricades with rubber, but most likely he just drove up here. I did a full video on this, and the most likely thing I came up with was that he went into the golf course area here, and because of the angles, which I can't show you right now, he was able to traverse a large portion of the distance he went to the next location his cell phone was picked up at by simply walking. I also pointed out that it was uphill, but not a major uphill path. None of that can be done now because Google has redacted this. And the Google Street Views, which you're looking at right here, have been blacked out. The default behavior for a blank space is a bunch of stripes, alternating black and white stripes. It's a zebra-striped sphere. I've shown that in another one. I call them the wormholes or defects in Google Maps. We're in a Google Street View. And it's a legacy copy of it showing a black screen, which means it's been overwritten with zeros. Let's go to the last location. I also did a walkthrough or a drive-through how to get in there at the time. Let's set ourselves here. This is one of the entranceways. I'm only going to bring up this one. If you try to do what I'm doing, I'm going to explain how I time tunnel and jump these things. Now, if you put your arrow out here, you'll see that it shows that there's a dead space here where they've removed things, but there are some jump points. Like here, we can jump across, and occasionally you'll hit a jump point in like this, and it will literally take you, and the joke is, to Toledo. It's not really a joke, it literally drags you specifically to Toledo, Ohio, as sort of a joke. The other one in California, specifically, is it will drag you to Burbank, which is a joke from Bugs Bunny. No, I'm not kidding, that's literally where some of the time tunnels throw you. You end up in Burbank, California, because it's a joke from, Looney Tunes. There's also a punishment mode that's integrated in these when they don't want you to go past a point where it will slow down slightly. And it'll also do something called the dervish. Now I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to try doing left and right turns, and we're in the dervish. See, it's aggravating. You can't get out of it. You have to click out. The reason for that is that at one point, the hack for it's really doing it hard. The hack for doing the jump throughs to get past these blockages was to simply click forward with the keyboard because it's a legacy mode. Now the other one is obviously, if you can see it, if I can zoom in and see it, is we can do this. Now if that arrow doesn't turn right or left, if it goes straight, it might let us go there. But when we click, it goes to the right or the left. So those are literally the jump points that don't work anymore. Now I'm going to do this. Let's see if we end up in Burbank or Toledo. You look for another year. You notice there's only a few years left. If we go back and forth, eventually, there we go. That should, and then it doesn't. And we end up only moving an inch or two forward. I've done this for a half hour at one point at one spot. Now we notice that if I zoom in here, no matter where I position it, it doesn't indicate any exits. Oh, wait a minute, it does right here. But then again, it just jumps us to the other location. It's not jumping us to the nearest location, it's sidestepping. This is a clue that we can't get past this. Now, if we go backwards one notch by me hitting the keyboard, specifically, if it lets me, it may not. We can get back on the highway. Got to do it a couple of times until it pulls us into the highway itself. Now, and it's now fighting me a lot. This is not it doing this by accident. This is its way of telling you no, because it requires dozens and dozens of times more clicks and more web-based cycles than you'd be willing to do. The idea is to discourage you and also to make it to where an automated bot can't go through here. Originally, this is an anti-bot routine to keep web scrapers from grabbing their mapping data automatically. It knows that if it does this enough, however, a human will give up. So yeah, we can't get past that, so let's get out of the map before it crashes, because it'll try to. Now, I pointed out there were a couple of spots we could get to. Let's see if they're ghosts or real. We're going to go find a couple of them. But anyway, the point of this video, if you were curious, is that Google has been told by the owners of this large property to redact it. Let's click here and see if I get into it. Okay, we're now at a piece of property, and it can't be the only ones who didn't want it unseen. I could understand them leaving it visible if they were buying and selling. But let's see what we got here. We can zoom in on this, and it'll give us the map pieces that are available. So let's click here. That should get us to a part of it. You notice it's not really pointing at it. Again, we could be in, Toledo. Okay, I'm going to click the button, and it lets us move around in what is a cul-de-sac. So let's get back out of that. And this one over here will probably be another cul-de-sac, but we're going to check. This is a little bit longer, so let's try it. This should give us accidentally a view up and down Bedford Park Road, or Drive. And again, may not let us. Okay, that's Bedford Park. Okay, let's see if I can keyboard into it. Nope. Keyboarding back. It lets me do it. So on the map, from up high, it looks like we can look up and down this main road, this road here, but in fact, it's just making it to where we can only look at a certain section. It's a cul-de-sac with these houses in it. And I guarantee you it'll go into the dervish if I turn right or left. So I'm going to do it right now. Turning right, one click. Try it again. Yep, it does the dervish. Okay, so that's fine. And it let me out. That's good. At least I'm not crashing. So anyway, to get to the point, when I see that I can click on time tunnels that are there, but they don't let me through, that means the time tunnels have been completely erased. That means Google agreed to erase a bunch of very valuable mapping information, and not updated after a certain point. This also means that they're retro erasing things. This is sometimes called the Berkeley standard for archiving. What that means is the right to be forgotten. And that means a black screen, apparently. So yeah, this is pretty lousy. So if you were trying to investigate anything in the Henderson area, specifically concerning the disappearance of Stephen Thalculture, you're not going to be able to now. And you're going to have to look for videos that have this data and go download them, because it's been gone. And it's at every one of the entrances into the hoity-toity areas here. You go here. I've already done this a couple of times and failed. This is another spot to try to time tunnel. Again, if I hold it still, and if I look around, okay, if I change the year, it doesn't matter which year, just get it to reset the year. It even moved me forward a couple of inches. And if I look around, okay, so I'm going to back up one notch, see if it lets me. Try it again. Now, let me see if it, let go of the mouse. You can see, if I zoom in especially, you can see there's a time tunnel right there. And it would let me jump, but it doesn't. That's not because the data's missing. It could just show me the black screen. It could just let me go into a failure mode. Instead, it says you're not allowed to even look, just in case they didn't erase anything yet. So yeah, Google Street View has been altered so that you cannot use it. And it has nothing to do with this investigation, obviously. I'm just pointing this out as the latest example of something getting in the way of getting things done on the internet. And I also like to point out that this story has not been updated for a very long time. The last time there was any significant activity was not December 2020, but December 2019. And people are recycling the PDF files from that date for whatever reasons. I'll include links to them because they are useful information on it. But please don't harass people over this, and please don't assume that you know something that, you know, you're a super sleuth and your spidey sense is tingling. That's not real. But yeah, this does get in the way of me being able to investigate this any further, and without being able to trace the pathway here and show you this little pathway that got skinnier over the years, going to the golf course green, and mention time and date stamps where it could have been, should have been a time when some people were there and maybe somebody saw something. We don't have that resource anymore because Google giveth and Google taketh away. Or more accurately, somebody paid pretty big bucks or filed a lawsuit to get this information raised. And yes, if I sat here on the Anaheim Parkway and looked over this fence, in a specific year I could jump across. I didn't mention that in the video because I didn't think it was important. But I could get up here one notch. I could get in here and go back and see how many more times we have. Let's go to 2018, or 2013, excuse me. I could look, yes, computer, because it's a jacked up camera on the end of a post on top of the vehicle. I could look over here and click, and that's been erased too. I've tried all my tricks. I can't get through. So, if any of you have any links to videos that contain street views of the area, we may need them if anybody wants to investigate this ever again. But from this point forward, you're not allowed to have the starting point of where the vehicle was found when he went missing, because the people who run this enclave demanded it all be erased, most likely. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.